Section 7.2, the ellipse and the circle. So first I'm going to start with circle. The circle. What is the most important thing about circle is to talk about the equation of the circle. So if we have a circle with center HK and radius R. If you pick any point here, xy, the distance from that point to the other point is the radius. So if you use the distance formula, x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. R. That's the distance from these 2 points is r. If you square both sides, you get x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So this is the equation of the circle. Two things are important about the equation of circle: center and radius. Every time you're asked to find the equation of circle, two things you need to find: center and radius. So let's look at some examples about how to find. So find the equation of the circle. With center -2, 3 and radius r equals 5. And we're going to see another example. Let's say center 1/2, 0 and radius 2 square root of 3. Well, the equation says x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. This is h and this is k. All we have to do is substitute x minus -2, that becomes positive, y minus 3, r is 5 squared, which is 25. So that's what we get. Next one, same way, x minus h, which is 1/2 square, plus y minus 0 square equals 2 square root of 3 square. So this stays the same. This is y square. And this one, when you square it, the 2 is 4. And this is 3. So that's a 12. So that's how we find the equation of the circle. And it could go backwards. They can ask us to find the center and radius for each of the following: x minus 2 square, y minus 6 square is 25. And then we're going to look at different examples. Say x squared plus y squared equals 18. So for this one, compare it to x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. H is 2 and k is 6, so that's the center. And radius, we have radius is the 25 square is, so radius is 5 because r squared is 25. So r squared is 25, r is 5. Not plus or minus because it's a distance, just a plus. For the next one, the center is here 0, 0 and radius is, the r squared is 18. So r is the square root of 18, which can be rewritten as 2 times 9, and that's 3 root 2. The next one, x squared plus y squared plus 4x minus 6y. It's different than the one above it. The other two that we did, they were like straightforward, but this one requires some working. So what do we need to do here? Keep the x squared here the same, the x's, the y's next to each other, equals to 0. So now we need to complete the square on each one of them. There's no numbers in the front, just 1. So we take this number, we divide it by 2, that gives us 2. If you square it, you get 4. So you need to add 4 to this side and 4 to the other side. And we do the same thing here. This is -6. We divide it by 2 gives me -3. Square it, you get 9. So add 9 and 9. So now we complete the square on this and this. So what do we get? X plus 2 square, y minus 3 square equals 13. So then I can find the center. Notice how it's a plus here, it's not minus. Center is negative 2 comma 3, and radius is the square root of 13. Square root of 13. For the next one, x squared minus 8x plus y squared plus 12y equals 12. That's another one, similar to the previous one. So we need to complete the square first. So keep x squared minus 8x the same, y squared plus 12y the same. So here what we do, we divide 8 by 2, you get 4. Squared, you get 16. So add 16 to both sides. Divide this by 2, you get 6. Squared, you get 36. Add 36 to both sides. So what do we get here? This part here becomes x minus 4 squared plus this part is y plus 6 squared equals, what do we get for the next one? So all we have to do, add the numbers up. Here we get 64. 64. So then the center of the circle would be 4 comma negative 6. Pay attention to the negative. And then r squared is 64, so r is 8. So r squared is 64, r is 8. So the radius is 8 and the center is 4, negative 6. That's pretty much about circles. Now we have ellipses. Ellipses. What is an ellipse? How does it look like? Well, there are two different forms, either this way, opening horizontally this way, or vertically. So let's talk about the horizontal part. What do we need to know about the ellipse? So we draw what we call them axes, this horizontal axis and the vertical axis. They meet at a point. This I point is called HK, is the center, not vertex, center. Call this A, B, C, D. So what do we have? AB is called the major axis. Major axis. And this AB has a length of 2A. So each piece is A. This is A, this is A. This is small b, small b. So CD is called the minor axis. Minor axis. And it has a length of 2B. Has a length 2B. Okay. And what other things we need to know about this? We have 2 points here, not just 1 point as we had in the previous parabola. One here and one there. So focus 1, focus 2. So those are the foci. So F1 and F2 are called the foci. They are always located on the major axis. Always located on the major axis. Not minor, on the major axis. And they are at a distance C from the center. This is C and this is C. So now we have 3 things, small a, small b, small c. The relation between them is that c squared is always a squared minus b squared. Now, is there an equation for the ellipse? Yes, it's like the parabola has an equation. So the equation of the ellipse is given by x minus h squared over a squared plus y minus k squared over b squared equals 1. That's the equation of the ellipse. Always keep in mind that a is always bigger than b. A is bigger than b, always. So if a is located under the axis, as you can see, the a square, so this means the ellipse is going to open horizontally. If it's the other way around, so this one, the ellipse must open this way. If the equation is different, like x minus h squared over b squared, like that, plus y minus k squared over a squared equals 1, then the ellipse would look like this. Opens vertically. So as an example to apply this stuff, find or analyze, find everything, let's say, everything about the ellipse. About the ellipse of equation x minus 1 squared over 25 plus y plus 3 squared over 9 equals 1. So the first thing I find is the center. Center of the ellipse is 1 comma negative 3. Do you see why negative 3? 1 comma negative 3. The larger number among these two is 25. So that would be the a square. And the b square is 9. So from here we get a equals 5 and b equals 3. And now from these two, c squared is a squared minus b squared. So c squared is 16. C is 4. C is 4. Now the key for me that helps me really solve most of the questions for ellipses or conics in general is to plot what we have so far. If you don't know what to do next, just plot the given. So 1 comma negative 3 was the center. So let's do this. XY. 1 comma negative 3. So we go 1, 1, 2, 3. That's the center. A, remember a squared is below the x. So it's going to open horizontally parallel to the x-axis. So a was 5. So from here we go 5 units. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's at 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. So that's a negative 4. So it's going to be somewhere here. Somewhere here. And then B is 3. So you're going to go 1, 2, 3. So B goes here. 1, 2, 3. That's a negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 5, negative 6. So it's here. So the ellipse is going to go like so. Okay, so that's the ellipse. Okay, that's the ellipse. So here we have A, here we have B, here we have C, and here we have D. AB is the major axis. So AB is the major axis. Has a length of 2A. So even if you don't look at the graph, you already have A5. So that's 2 times 5, 10. CD is 2B. So 2 times B is 3. So that gives us 6. And we need to find the foci. C is 4. C is 4. So it's going to go, this is 1. And you're going to go 4 steps. So the foci will be here. So F1, foci. F1 has 5, negative 3. And we're going to find F2. You go this way 5 steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 steps. So it's going to land here at negative 3. So negative 3, negative 3. If you have a graphing paper, it would help much better to use a graphing paper. So now, what else we need to find? We need to find the vertices A and B. Always the vertices are located on the major axis. So A has coordinates negative 4, negative 3, and B has coordinates 6, negative 3. And we got the co-vertices. C, 1, 0, and D, 1, negative 6. So this is the co-vertices. These are the co-vertices. So we have foci, vertices, co-vertices, and then we graphed the ellipse. We found the length of the major axis, the length of the minor axis. That's all we can find about it here. Nothing else to find. Now let's say they ask us a slightly different question. Let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Say 7, 2. I'm gonna pick this here, 7, 2. Negative 1, negative 1, 2. And then 3, 4. So let's say we are given an ellipse with this graph. So the graph of the ellipse is given. The graph of the ellipse is given. It is touching the x-axis at this point. Okay, so this point is given 7, 2. This point is 3, 4. This point is negative 1, 2. So what we need to do is to find the equation of the ellipse. Find the equation of the ellipse. Equation of the ellipse given to the right. Now, how do we find the equation? The first thing, we need the center. So the center is the midpoint, kind of point of intersection here. So that's the center. So the center here, I, has coordinates 3, 2, as you can see from the graph, 3, 2. We need the center because that gives me h and k. If you write the equation, just a formula, x minus h squared over a squared plus y minus k squared over b squared equals 1. That gives me h and k. The only thing left to find is a and b. So notice, a is the length of the measure axis from -1 to 7. That's 8 units. So 2a is 8. A is 4. And 2b is 4. So 2b is 4. So b is 2. So I found a and b. So now x minus 3 squared over 4 squared plus y minus 2 squared over 2 squared equals 1. So that gives us x minus 3 squared over 16 plus y minus 2 squared over 4 equals 1. That's the equation of the ellipse. We don't have to expand. We can just leave it like so. Let's look at another example. Let's say they also give us another graph. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. 0, 1, 2, 3. So one vertex given at 2, -2, 2, 6, -1, 2, and let's say it goes like this. We don't know the other side here. We don't know what that point is. It's not given. But they did give us I to be 2, 2, the center. And this is -1, 2. So find the equation of the ellipse. To the right. If I is its center. So its center means I already have the 2, 2, I already have h and k. I don't have to worry about h and k. So now I need to find a and b. So how do I find a? This is the 2a now. This is 2a. 2a is the distance from -2 to 6, the distance, which is 8 units. So 2a is 8 units. So a is 4. And we still have to find b. How do I find b here? Okay, how do we find b? Well, if you don't know what that point on the other side, b is the distance from here to here, which is 1, 2, 3 units. And b is 3 units. So when we write the equation, remember the ellipse is opening up and down, opening up and down. So the equation would be x minus h squared over b squared. Yes, plus y minus k squared over a squared equals 1. Remember, a is bigger than b all the time. So if it goes parallel to the y-axis, then the a must be below the y. Means in the equation, this y and a should be in the same fraction. So now x minus h is 2 squared, k is 2, b is 3, so that's 3 squared and that's 4 squared. So that would give us x minus 2 squared over 9 plus y minus 2 squared over 16 equals 1. So that gives me the equation of the ellipse. Now, another different kind of example, we can be given, let's say, equation 2x squared plus 4x plus y squared minus 2y equals 13. Rewrite it in the 4 x minus h squared over a squared plus y minus k squared over b squared equals 1. Or maybe let's make it a here and b there. So this means write it as something square over something plus something square over something equals 1. So that something square means they ask us to complete the square. So it's 2x squared plus 4x. Let me rewrite it. Y squared minus 2y equals 13. So in the first one, we can factor 2 among these because this number must be 1 first. So it's x squared plus 2x. Keep this the same, y squared minus 2y. Then we divide this by 2, you get 1. Divided by 1 squared, you get 1. So you add 1, subtract 1. For the y squared minus 2y, you divide that by 2, you get 1. Squared, you get 1. So you add 1 and add 1. So what we get here, we complete the square on this stuff. X plus 1 squared minus 1. Complete the square here. Y minus 1 squared equals 14. Then we multiply the 2 in. 2 times the whole factor. 2 times 1, 2. Keep this the same. And 14 the same. So now we add 2 to both sides. We get 2 times x plus 1 squared plus y minus 1 squared equals 16. Then we divide everything by 16 because I want that number here on the right side to be 1. So 2 times x plus 1 squared over 16 plus y minus 1 squared over 16 equals 16 over 16. By 2, 1, by 2, 8. So that gives me x plus 1 squared over 8 plus y minus 1 squared over 16 equals 1. And that's what I was asked to find.